Hi, Armand here with another video astroblog, this time about the April 2014 astrology. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind you that you can go to integralastrology.net. There should be a link up on, if you're watching on the homepage, there should be a link off to the side of Isaac Mills' really great graphic up there at the top of the page. And if not, you can just follow the directions on the bottom of the screen. And there you'll find things like a detailed monthly forecast, which sort of goes through this but day by day. And you'll also find other interesting articles and things like that. And you can also contact me through the website. And that's important because you can no longer contact me on the YouTube page. The problem is that YouTube, thanks to Google's deciding to sort of strong-arm me into using the same name all the time, wants me to change the name of the channel, which I cannot do without blocking my ability to upload new videos. So I have not been ignoring your questions and comments. I just can't answer them at all. Okay, that's that. Let's talk about April 2014. Now, some people have been saying that if you watch these video astroblogs and you don't know any astrology, they're not too helpful. Well, it's an astrology page. That kind of thing happens. This is for people that know a little bit of astrology. But for April 2014's forecast, I think I can do it without actually really doing much astrology because, to tell you the truth, there's just too much of it. So here it is in a sort of simplified format. We have a planetary alignment that is fairly rare. It happens about every 40 years. It happened in the 1960s. It happened in the 1930s before that. This time around, we have the energy in roughly some form between about 2008 and 2019. It's a long period of time. You're already familiar with a lot of the stuff that's happening. It kind of peaks in the years 2012 to 2015. That's when the wave is highest. And the absolute crest, the absolute peak of this energy is right here, right now in April of 2014. That is the absolute peak. We not only have these two planets in tense alignment with each other, we have other planets that are making things even bigger and more tense. And so we really have a storm going on. And what we know is when these things get into alignment, a lot of stuff happens. It's a big deal. There's a lot of political and social change. There's a lot of economic change. We know that there's a real shift in the way people see things. The assumptions that we come into these times with wind up getting shaken up, and we come out of them with a whole new set of assumptions. But we don't really know too much about the way things work out in the particular. Why? Because it's new. You know, when you talk about something, you're always limited by the fact, what's going to happen in the future. You know what's happened in the past, so you can say, well, it's like what happened in the past. Maybe you can recombine some elements from the past and say, well, it'll be a little bit like this. But you can't really imagine something that is brand new that hasn't yet come into being, unless you're the person bringing it into being. But otherwise, you can't really say what things are going to look like because they're new. And really new things are new. So we don't know too much in the way of specifics. Like tracking a hurricane, we can say, okay, we see it forming, we know its intensity, we know there's a Category 5 storm that we have over here going on. We know the direction it's headed, and in fact it happens to be making landfall in the United States. We know that because the sun of the United States, the chart for July 4th, 1776, the sun of the chart of the United States is also in this alignment. So it kind of hits that point. So we know it's sort of focused on the United States, and that's one of the things we're going to kind of look at. But we don't really know how it's going to manifest. Horrible things, wonderful things, both. I would guess both. There's certainly a lot of horrible stuff going on all the time, so that's nothing unusual if it's unhappy. What's likely is that things are going to mean more at this time. The events that happen, however wonderful or tragic or whatever they happen at any given point in time, it's not their self-contained value that really has their big influence. It's the way we react to them. When something happens, we can change our whole way of thinking. We can contract in fear, and it can take decades to loosen up. It can take decades to move past that. When something wonderful happens, we can get enthusiastic, and we can keep that enthusiasm going until we reach the point where it's no longer working and something sort of deflates the bubble. And so we're likely to see both of those things. I think economically, for example, we'll probably see continued optimism despite what we might look at as being some very questionable circumstances. But I don't know. I don't know. There's too many things. There's too many things going on. All you can do is say intensity and something about the direction. The specifics, just the same way, a good meteorologist can't say what's going to happen to your house in the hurricane. We can't really say much in the way of specifics. There are a couple of general things we can point out, though. First of all, we're pulled in many directions simultaneously. You feel that in your own life, we feel it collectively. There's a lot of things to pay attention to on every possible level of scale. There's 2 earthquakes this week, one in Los Angeles, one in Chile. That's pretty amazing. Individuals going off the rails is another common thing that is happening since about 2011. And we're seeing more of that. The word lockdown appeared in 3 stories this week, 2 of them sequentially on my news feed. Just lockdown. Lockdown is what happens when we have a person going off the rails. We see all kinds of things that are, in and of themselves, they may not indicate much in the way of a direction. Little isolated things or big isolated things that don't necessarily add up to a big collective change right away. And yet they do when we look at them with time, when we look at them over the course of time. What has happened? How have we changed as a result of what has gone on? So, we have revolutions or uprisings in Turkey, in Venezuela, in Thailand, in the Ukraine. We have, in Egypt. We have all of these things, really, really, really hot areas, in addition to the usual really, really hot areas. We have the Malaysian plane that went missing. We have the possibility that, is Putin trying to, reconstitute the old Soviet Union, and are we headed back for a Cold War situation? There's almost no end to where you could place your attention in terms of the big picture. And in your own life, you've got the same thing going on. You've got a lot of fires to put out in your own life. And that's exactly the energy that we would be feeling. And so if you feel, wow, I'm pulled in so many directions, there's so much to pay attention to, I don't even know what to worry about, or I don't know what to get excited about, because there are some exciting possibilities too. You've pretty much got the sense of it. We're being pulled in too many directions to really be able to gain a sense of focus. How do you handle this? Well, collectively, we just have to ride it out and hope for the best, and try not to stoke too much fear and paranoia, and try not to be too reactive. Even if things get a little bit rough, we have to try not to be too reactive. And if you contract a little bit when things get rough, we have to see if we can loosen up a little bit quicker than we might otherwise be inclined to. And the same thing in our personal lives. It's important that we not contract too much. It's important that we try to stay as open and flexible as possible. You probably don't know how things are going to work out. You probably don't even know everything that's a problem to see how it works out. It's okay. It's okay. Try to keep a sense of your core. Try to keep a sense of your heart. What is the thing that is really important there? And then as each situation comes up, try to negotiate from that central core position. As far as ego goes, as far as expectations and assumptions, as far as wishes and hopes go, you know what? You can probably get a lot of them done. This is a time that really favors change. And if the status quo has been holding you back, here's your opportunity. Of course, if you kind of like the status quo in some respects, and I bet you do, well, that could be a little bit of a problem. Openness, flexibility, a few deep breaths, a couple of gin and tonics, some meditation, and as much perspective on the situation as you can possibly drum up. We're coming into this storm. We don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know what it's going to be like. It's going to be intense at one level or another, but the important thing is that we try to come out of it and go forward with as much positive energy as we can possibly muster. Good luck.